There is this story in the Chandogya Upanishad. There are these 6 rishis or sages who are debating on the Atman. What is Atman? What is Brahman? And each one of them have their own versions, and each one of them find inconsistencies. So they decide to speak to someone who's more knowledgeable about this subject of Atman, Brahman. So they want to know the truth. They go to Udalaka, who is a great sage and considered to be very knowledgeable. So Udalaka is not willing to speak on the subject, although he knows everything, but he is not willing to speak on the subject because he feels that maybe his understanding is not up to that level where he can explain it. So he decides to send them to King Ashwapati. For him, Ashwapati is the complete authority on the subject, and he is quite convinced that nobody can give them better explanation than him. So next day, all the 6 rishi, they appear in King Ashwapati's court. He asks them what is what is troubling them. So they explain that they are contemplating on the truth, but they are not able to arrive at any conclusion because everyone is coming up with their own version of truth. So King Ashwapati says, okay, tomorrow come to me one by one and I'll answer your questions. So next day, he meets them individually, and based on their object of meditation, he gives them the explanation. And he is very clear on this part that one requires sacrifice and meditation in order to realize the universal self or pure self or Brahman. So the first one comes and he says that I meditate on the heaven, that I visualize a heaven and then I meditate on that. So Ashwapati says that, okay, so heaven is the head of the universal self. This head of the universal self. So you visualize and through that you realize the self. Then the next rishi comes and he says that I meditate on the sun. So Ashwapati says that, okay, sun is the fire element. So he says, okay, those are the eyes of the universal self. Then the third rishi comes and he says that I meditate on the air. So Ashwapati says, okay, so air is the prana or the life force which provides vitality to the universal self. Then comes the fourth rishi. He says that I meditate on the Akash element. So he says, okay, then Akash is the trunk of the universal self. And then comes the sixth rishi who says that I meditate on the water. So Ashwapati says, okay, then water is the bladder of the universal self. Its fluid nature. Now, after these explanations, the rishis are not all that satisfied. So they, talk amongst themselves, and they say, but that still, we are still divided, because one is meditating on, one object, other is meditating on different object. But how is to one realize the one truth? So Ashwapati says that the truth or the wholeness has to be seen in the parts. So all parts have to be known collectively. It is not that the whole is composed of parts. The whole is complete in itself, but it appears as the parts to a divided mind, to a fragmented mind. So to know the truth, one cannot fixate on the object of meditation. See, every meditation, you are given an object. For example, the breath, or sound, or some visual. The idea of the object of meditation is to just make the mind calm enough so that all the background noise is eliminated. Because once the background noise is eliminated, you enter the seventh limb of the Ashtanga Yoga, which is Dhyan. What Dhyan means is that only the subject and the object remains, and all else vanishes. But even that is not the final stage. The final stage is when the subject-object split breaks down, when there is complete absorption or samadhi. So in samadhi, wholeness is a recognition, not by the individual, but by the one vertical thought, the impersonal awareness of being, or I am. Because I get a lot of questions on this subject. How do I make my mind still? You don't make your mind still, the stillness happens. And it happens in the impersonal awareness of I am. When you completely give up all resistance, all effort, what naturally remains is the state of pure being, or the universal self. And the self, or the source, and the contents that it creates, they are not two. They are one. So a divided mind cannot see wholeness. The divided mind is one which creates division between a subject, the individual, observing an object. The object may be object of meditation or any other object. But when the subject dissolves, even the object cannot sustain for long. And it is then that the experiencer becomes the experience. The observer becomes the observed. So there is a unification. It is not that things are magically going to, stick together. It is not a union which you can visualize. The wholeness is seen in the division. It is a recognition, an impersonal recognition. And it does not happen till the ego suspends putting effort. And how does the ego suspends effort? Only with this complete knowledge that all its effort is futile to understand the nature of the universal self, or Brahman. If you are chanting, I am Brahman, you are just creating an object. It is an object of your fantasy then. When you truly realize Brahman, there would be no need to speak about it. And the only way to know it is that there will be a sense of peace or your natural state where you are completely at rest. There is no state beyond that which needs mention. Actually, there is nothing, because that is the base, that is the substratum. It is the substratum and the substance at the same time. So what Ashwapati says here is that in this story of Upanishads is that the truth has to be seen in all. Not if you're fixated on just one method of meditation and you're thinking that will show you the wholeness, that may not happen. I'm not saying that it will not happen, that may not happen. Because we tend to get attached to the object of meditation. You know, where the mind works like this, that if I meditate more, maybe I will reach there. But the truth is here right now. In fact, it is so close that the mind evades it. It is much before the mind. It is the base of the mind. It is here and now.